Welcome if you are joining us live, and thank you for watching if you are joining us on the replay. I was going to say restream. So thank you so much. Happy Thursday. Again, my name is Crystal. I join you every single Thursday here live on LinkedIn. So if you are, I'm just making sure that things are going live on LinkedIn. So if you want to join us, by all means. Oh, there we go. So if you are able to join us, we're here live every single Thursday at 12 o'clock. If you miss us live, again, you can check that restream, the replay, and all of our past events are also on LinkedIn. So by all means, go back, check those out. We've also been posting them on YouTube. Now, once a month, I'm also joined by my business partner, Jeanette Bergeau, and we do a bit of a deeper dive on some of these topics. So they'll be a little bit longer. So make sure to mark your calendars. You should be getting a notification and you'll see those. So make sure to mark your calendar and show up for those. All right. So today we are talking about how good hearts do not always equal great leadership. All right. And I know that this can be a really heavy topic for some because you didn't get into this work because you wanted to be a poor leader. You are here because somebody saw something in you. They knew that you weren't just good, that you were great, that you had exceptional ability. And that's what we're here to talk about today when sometimes this can go sideways. All right. So, without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about a story to explain what I'm talking about here. I was working with a team and they were really struggling with the dynamics between the manager and the team. And that's why I was asked by the team to intervene and come talk to them. And there was one particular issue that came up that I knew that I needed to address right away. So within this office, there were client areas and then there was staff areas. So the staff had their office, their lunchroom, and then there was client facing spaces. And it seems like something small, but people would bring coffee in that was open. And as the clients would come in, sometimes this coffee would get knocked over and it would make a mess. It would spill. And that was really frustrating, not only to the team that would have to clean it up, of course, it was their coffee, but also to the manager that was in charge. They were getting really annoyed by the fact that these coffee cups kept spilling everywhere. And this was discussed at the original team meeting like, okay, so we're all in agreement. We're not going to do this anymore. But as things go, you're running late to work, you grab your coffee from Starbucks, and you come into the office, then you have to go and see the clients and you set your coffee down. And one day when this was happening, the manager had went into the space, taken a picture, and then posted it on the team's general group media chat for everyone to see. Right away, the team was extremely hurt. They were frustrated and they were not happy at all with this manager. To make matters worse, when the team come to speak to me, they said the only reason that they were doing it was because they saw that the manager was bringing her coffee cups in. So they assumed that it was okay. Now, when they decided to then go back and forth on social media or on the group chat account where the picture had been posted, things escalated. So of course, it was time for a debrief and a conversation. Now there's three key things that came out of this conversation. And the first is that there's such this blind spot between intent versus impact. And both are very, very important. What I find is people often defend their actions based on their intentions. When it was brought to this manager's attention that this may have not been the most appropriate way to address this issue, her defense was, I was just sending a reminder. But she completely missed how those actions hit their team. Right away, they came out and said, "We were in the room, like, we were there working with clients. Why could you have not have just come and asked us to remove our mugs?" And again, it was, "I just wanted to send a reminder to the team." Right? When you're working with clients, especially, this can be challenging because it's managing timing, versus do we impact the client relationship? But these staff members were so hurt by those actions, and it was really hard for them to de-escalate into that conversation. Now, mission-driven leaders, you are especially vulnerable to this because there's an assumption that you have such a good relationship with your team that your good hearts, your good intentions will automatically translate to this good leadership, that you weren't doing it to be wrong, you were doing it just to loop everyone else in. But that's often not how this hits. It's often not how it's understood. Right? So that blind spot of intent versus impact. The second, and this is why I didn't want to go into it more, was that public call out trap. Now, this is so complex because of the different types of communication styles. And I know I've spoken to a few of you that are on social, or sorry, that are in hybrid, not on social media, but you're in hybrid workplaces, which means that most of your communication is done digitally, but it takes out intent, it takes out clarification, it takes out that human element, which people need, especially people that are so passionate, so intertwined in the human dynamics of their work. So, looking at the public call out, right? There was a step process that should have been gone through that wasn't. So, using group communication to address this behavior issue, it didn't call them in, right? It immediately called them out. It created shame, it created defensiveness and huge division, right? There started to be the dialogue back and forth on that team chat saying, "Well, I don't leave my mugs out. Oh, I bet you I know who that is." Because, of course, everybody knows who was working at that day at that time, right? It creates an us versus them as opposed to a general reminder or just discussing one on one with these individuals to take a second, remove your mug, and then come back, right? It would have been so much more effective. The impact that this event had, looking at it from a very surface level, you might think it's just mugs, it's just coffee. But the ripple effect of dismissing their concern about it being posted on the group chat eroded so much trust in that leader. It removed the psychological safety that the team was working to build. It might look like something small, but it was so big. And that gets into this credibility, right? So the third thing here is the credibility crisis. When leaders apply different standards to themselves than their teams, they lose that moral authority instantly. Like I was saying at the beginning of the story, nobody was bringing their cups in until one day they saw that that manager who was running late came in and set her mug down in the area where the clients were. And then all of a sudden, the person who was really good friends with the manager brought her mug in and sat it down. And it created this cascading effect where suddenly it seemed acceptable. So all of a sudden, to be called out so publicly without any ownership being taken by that leader that they had a part to play in this really set up the team to have a breakdown in that trust in the leader, to not view her as credible, to turn around and say, like, why is it okay for her, but it's not okay for us? Right? That do as I say, not as I do dynamic. This is what starts setting up those toxic workplaces. And it's so, so hazardous, right? When we talk about those baby steps, right? These destructive workplaces, the toxic workplaces, they don't just happen overnight. They're a process of little baby steps, one and then the next and the next, right? So bad for mission driven teams, especially when that authenticity truly matters, when the connection to your leadership, to your team is at the heart of everything that you do. And taking accountability or apologizing for your mistakes only lasts so long. The team didn't want to hear, "Oh, yeah, I brought it in, but I shouldn't," right? Because it kept happening. And it was okay for some people, but not okay for other people. And this is where the issues start happening. And some of the team members after that, they didn't get back the trust with their leader. So when I was in speaking to the manager, I had brought these concerns right away to her, that the team was thinking that this was very passive aggressive. There was a different way to address that. Unfortunately, she was very dismissive of the issue at the time, as was her leadership, saying, "Okay, well, tough luck," basically, to this staff. That's how it is. It was an implementation of the rules. This is our policy. She was implementing the policy. Oh, I have to do a big exhale here because it's always sad and frustrating when I see that the team wants cohesiveness more than the leader is willing to face their blind spots. But that was okay. We still worked with this, and unfortunately, this is something that is still common in many, many workplaces today, that it's really hard for leaders to see past their blind spots or to be willing to admit that maybe there was a better way that they could do something. But that's okay. That's why we love the holistic wraparound approach of the services that we offer. And let me know right now. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat to make sure I have to refresh it because that's always fun on LinkedIn. I just wanted to double check that there was no comments in there. All right. So with that, I had to pivot and start working with the staff as well. And like I was saying, this is why we love the wraparound approach of our work so much because it's so easy for one person to get stuck in their mindset, in their ways. And it seems like that's where the education, that's where the transformation has to end. But it doesn't. Absolutely not. The best thing that you can do for your organization is create multiple layers, whether it's employees, whether it's days, whatever it is, multiple layers of this education that your staff has, the skills, the abilities for the entire organization to know how to handle these issues when they arise. Very fortunate in this situation, the staff said, okay, we clearly need these skills. We need the skills to manage up, to manage our own emotions, to manage how we're looking at things, our perceptions. So I was able to work with them. So rather than continuing to work and spend time with this leader who could not see her role in the problem, we shifted to empowering the team with tools to manage up and create healthy boundaries, healthy methods of communication, and healthy ways of looking at the situation so that they weren't coming into work every day frustrated and upset and as our brains work, then looking for every single thing that this manager was doing wrong because it would have been so easy for them to do that. And it would have created a terrible environment for their clients, for the rest of their team members, for the management team. What's important here is that this demonstrates that sometimes the most effective intervention isn't changing the difficult person, but building the resilience of the people that are around them. So I was able to work with the team and give them some self reflection questions, some different abilities that they could then use to reframe the situation. So when they saw a post on social media, instead of going from 1 to 10 and allowing it to ruin their day, their client interactions, what could they do? We worked on different communication skills for how can you approach the leader? How can you speak to your coworkers? What else do you need to do to feel like You've been heard, even if the other person isn't receptive to your ideas. So I have a note here. When you have uh, to say, it's really important to not think, okay, this person is a bad manager because they were missing some skills, didn't necessarily make them bad at their job. This person was brilliant at very specific skills, and that's why they were put into that position. But a lot of times, once you're sitting in that position, you find ways of defending your intentions while ignoring the impact. So, without putting it in the chat, because I know that that's super vulnerable, um, but just think about, is there a time that you've defended your intentions, whether it is at work, at home, in your personal life, with your kids, your in laws, where you haven't paid attention to what the impact of those actions were? Right? They're both important. I really, really want to stress this because we talk about this a lot. Intention does matter and impact matters. And when we can bridge the two and have a conversation, that's when understanding occurs. If we only talk about impact, if that's all that we look at, it's really challenging to build relationships, to build understanding, and to make people want to show up differently and to make a change. So we really have to understand our intentions. We really have to understand what then happened for the other person and base our conversation in that way. And it goes vice versa, right? What was the other person's intention and what impact did it have on you? A big struggle that was under all of this was the ability to get honest feedback about the leader's blind spots. In a book that I was reading, and I can't remember what it is right now, but they were, I think it wasn't Getting TS, it was something else. Um, but it was saying, if you're always hearing yes, or you're doing a great job, you are missing something major, right? I was in like one of these week-long, in-depth coaching programs. Um, and I think it was with Dave Irving. And one thing that he had said was, ask your staff to rate you on a scale of 1 to 10. And if they say like 1 to 4, you know they're being honest. If they say 8 to 10, they're probably being honest, but you're probably going to want to take off a few marks there. But if they say 6 or 7, it's probably more like a 2 or a 3, because that means that they're trying to hedge what they're saying so that they don't get in trouble for giving negative feedback. And this is where, if you're the one doing performance evaluations, if you're the one that is managing their career growth, the tables and the doors that are opened and where they get a seat, what projects they get to be on, they might be really afraid of giving you honest feedback. So you have to be able to develop those relationships, develop the trust. And we have a 14-day leadership kickstart coming out that has some tips and tools to help you with that. So make sure that you're subscribing to our newsletter. And I'll drop the link in the chat here so that you can make sure to access that, because this isn't a one-time thing, right? This has grown over time. It can be broken really fast. It takes a long time to grow it. Sorry, I'm just trying to grab that link for you. Um, so it's really, really important to make sure that you are getting honest feedback. That if you have a blind spot, your staff is willing to step up and say, I don't think that you realize that you're doing this, but like, it's impacting us. It's impacting your team. It's impacting our clients. Right? But you have to foster that trust. You have to foster that open dialogue first. So the question that I want to leave you with today is, how do you take feedback really? Are you open to it? Do you sit there and harbor resentment after? Does that think that lingers? Are you accepting of it? It can be really challenging, especially if it's not coming from somebody that you expect it to. And if you're not taking it well, how can you shift? And if you are taking it well, how can you ensure that you're getting it from everyone that you need and not just the people that are telling you things that you want to hear or things that you think that you need to hear, but may not necessarily be from the standpoint that you want? So, again, really looking this week at how are you taking feedback? Do you need to get it from someone else? And do you need to change how you're approaching it? All right, I will be here again next week on Thursday at noon Mountain Time. Of course, that link is in there for the newsletter. I'm also going to drop another link if you're thinking, you know what, my team needs these wraparound services. I don't just want my leadership team to have training. I think it would be fantastic if all of my staff had the training, the skills that when things like this happen, they won't all of a sudden get defensive. It's not going to cause a breakdown in trust, a breakdown in relationships. Come and work with us, or if that's too much to ask right away, let's just set up a phone call, a virtual chat, or I'm going to drop in here the form so that you can come to work with us and we can see, are we a good fit for your team? Are we the team that can take you to the next level to make sure that there isn't things going underground? As somebody else said to me, okay, we keep sweeping things under the carpet, but at this point we're tripping under the carpet. So I think we need a deep clean, right? Is it time for that? Let us know. Again, I've dropped that link in the chat, so go and check that out. You're always welcome to reach out to me in the DMs, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next week, catching you in the replays. Um, Feel free to share this with anybody else that you think needs it by hitting that send link. All right, I will see